Hi, welcome to Sumery P. Today I'm going to share with you how to make an apple pie with spelt flour, or you can swap it for regular flour. It's a cinnamony apple filling. It's easier than you think. If I can do it, you can do it. If you'd like to see how to make a spelt apple pie, come with me and let's see. So step one, we're going to get the apple filling all done. So I'm just going to use 6 apples and a combination just to add a little bit of interest to the flavour. So we need to core them and peel them. So this is the boring bit, so I'll probably speed this up for you. So the peelings are done. Now we're going to slice them. As I slice them, I'm going to sprinkle some lemon juice on them. That just stops the apples from browning too much. So you can either chop them, slice them, but what I'll do is I'm going to slice on either side of the core and then just slice them across that piece and then in small chunks. You can keep them in slices if you prefer. So step 2, the apples are all chopped. We're going to add a little bit more of that lemon juice. I've got some zest of the lemon here. I'm going to add that. So it's just about 1 teaspoon. So I've got 2 types of sugar here. I've got 80 grams or 2.8 ounces of dark brown sugar and 80 grams of caster sugar or white sugar, which is also 2.8 ounces. So I'm just going to add that to the apples. I'm also going to add some spice. I love cinnamon, so I'm adding a whole teaspoon of cinnamon, ground cinnamon, pinch of salt, forgot about that. Or if you don't have dark brown sugar, you could use light brown sugar as well. I just love the extra caramelly flavour that the dark brown sugar provides. So we're going to leave this for 30 minutes and then we'll do the next step. While we're waiting on our apples to make their juices, we're going to make the pastry or the dough. So I've got spelt flour in the bowl already measured out. There's 500 grams, which is a pound, 1 pound, 2 ounces or 3 cups plus, I think, 2 tablespoons. So to that we're going to add 250 grams or 1 cup of butter. So this is chilled butter. And we just need to work this together with our fingertips until it forms breadcrumb-like consistency. I have done it on my stand mixer before, but I ended up having the butter in 2 larger clumps. So I think by hand it's easier to control. We want to add also a pinch of salt. And I've got 120 grams of white caster sugar, 1/2 cup or 4.2 ounces. So let's get that all in and then we just mix it together. And as I said in the introduction, if you didn't want to have spelt flour, you can add plain flour. And if you're new here today, consider subscribing. All you need to do is hit the bell and then you get notified as soon as I've got a new video. So you're aiming for the little butter pieces to be about the size of a pea. So we're going to add, just going to beat them, these 2 egg yolks. And we've got 2 tablespoons of chilled water. You can do it with your hands, but I'm going to grab this wooden spoon and just start mixing it. And sometimes when you use spelt flour, especially if you're using a wholemeal spelt flour, I'm using a white variety, it can look a little bit dry. So you may need to use a little bit more water. And today I'm going to do a lattice top. So it's looking like that at the moment, but I think I need some more water. We're just going to put a tablespoon at a time. So next step, we're going to lift all this dough onto a floured bench top, and then I'm going to separate it into 2. Okay, I've got a set of scales here. I'm just going to measure that so I have a complete half. I've got 474 on that dough ball and 470. Okay, we're going to form this into our plastic, make a flat disc. Just want to try and smooth out any of the cracks. And then you flatten it out into the disc shape so it reaches the edges of the plastic. I'm just going to let that relax in the fridge for 30 to 60 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to clean up and then we're going to get back into our apples. So the next step, the apples have created all this juice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour that juice into this small saucepan. So we're going to heat this up for about 3 to 5 minutes until it's boiling. Our liquid's hot. So then we pour the hot liquid back over the apples. And now we sprinkle over 2 tablespoons of spelt flour, or you can use regular flour. And we've got 2 tablespoons of corn flour. Just throw that in. So now, because our liquid's hot, we're just going to make a thick kind of syrup. Mix it around until the flour's all dissolved. Apples are done. Now we're going to start doing the pastry. We'll set that aside to let that chill a bit, rest. So I've got our pastry out of the fridge. Just going to add some flour. You can do this directly onto your bench, but I was given this pastry mat by a friend, so I've been using it. It just makes life easier. Grab your rolling pin. I have 2 rolling pins, but I like the French pin because it's nice and long and it's got tapered sides. Pop a little bit of flour onto the top and to your rolling pin. Now we're just going to press this a little bit, and then we want to start rolling it. So I'm using a pre-greased pie tin. That's about 23 centimetres. I love this one because it's got a removable base. It's like a tart tin, and it's got this fluted side, and it's easier to get out. I've also done my pies in this, which is my Pyrex dish, but I find I love the little tart dish more. So it makes about a serve of about 6 generous serves or 8. So then we need to just lift the pastry and make sure there's flour underneath it and move it a quarter, like 90 degrees turn, and then roll it another couple of times. Now, I'm no expert pie maker, but they always taste delicious. I'm more about flavour than form. I'm still perfecting my form. So we're aiming to get the pie shell to be about, the outside ring is 30 centimetres or 12 inches, but I want to get it a bit beyond that so it sits in my dish nicely. Sometimes when you use spelt flour, it cracks more than regular flour, but don't be alarmed, just keep rolling and you can fix it up in the pie tin. It's very forgiving. Even when I thought I'd messed it up, it still tasted fine. We need to get it into our pie dish. So what I'll do is put a little bit more flour in my rolling pin. I wrap the pastry back around it, roll it onto it. I've watched all the experts do this, and it does make it easier. Grab your pie dish, and then you roll it back over the top. And then you just kind of flop it in. And as you're flopping it in, if you've developed any cracks, like I do sometimes, you just start manipulating the dough. Yeah, so the cracks are all pushed together. So you just drop it in and make sure there's no air pockets on the side. And there's 2 ways. You can roll this off, so you cut off all the excess, because with the lattice top that we're doing, we don't really need to fold it together. We just pinch it and then we'll get rid of that excess. So to that base, I'm going to grab an egg. This is a little tip to stop your pastry going soggy. Just brush the base with this egg wash. I'm going to pour in my apples. The apples do shrink when they're cooked, so you might think you've got a lot of apples, but trust me, it's fine. Now we need to do the top. Add some more flour to your mat. Just make sure there's no liquidy bits on there, like I have. Grab that pastry out. Now if you find the pastry feels too cold, just bring it to room temperature before you start rolling it. As I said before, if you want to not do a lattice top, you can just roll out one piece. I loved the lattice crunchiness when I did it, so I'm going to do that. It's cracking because it's still too cold. I'm just pressing it down just to warm it up a bit. I've got a little bit of a crack here, so I'm just going to bring that together a bit. So now you can be technical and use a ruler to get perfect lines for your lattice, but I'm just going to do it by eye. So we need about 8 to 12 strips. I have done it with 8 because I ran out one time and it looked fine, but we're going to try for 12 today. So let me grab a knife. So we'll just go one down the middle, and it's about a little bit larger than your finger. Okay, how many have we got? We've got 10. So let's see if we can make that work. I use the long one across the middle. Use a shorter one on that side. I think we'll be fine with 10. So we're going to do 5 across. We use some of this. Whoops, that wasn't meant to break. So if it breaks, you might have to do some repair work. We've got some shorter ones on the side. Yeah, 5's fine on my size dish. And then to lift up those ones. And then we'll put one across the middle, one of the longer ones. We need to lift up the other side. We'll pop those ones back down. Then we need to do another one crossways. So we're going to lift up the opposite of what you've just lifted up. So we get an up and down fold. Don't think my maths is correct. That's got to go under. That's under, that's under, that's not under. That's over. So then we need to lift the middle one and the 2 sides. Pop them back down. I think I'm just going to get away with 5 one way and 4 the other. It's not perfect, but it'll be fine. I'm going to squeeze another one in. Look, this is very rustic, but Trust me, it'll taste great. So now, because we've got this great pan, we can just roll the rolling pin over the sides and cut off those edges. And if you've damaged one of your strips like me, just press it and it'll kind of meld together. So I've had my oven heating up. It's on 180 degrees C, which is 350 Fahrenheit. So now before we pop it in the oven, we're just going to brush it with some egg wash, just so we've got a nice glaze. And then just add a few teaspoons, I'm just going to sprinkle it on, of granulated sugar. That's just regular white sugar. And then we're going to slide it onto a tray, and that just makes it easier to get it in and out of the oven. So firstly, we're going to bake it for 10 minutes at 180. So a little handy hint, if you're baking it in a glass dish like this and you've got an edge to your pie, add foil around the outside rim of your pie and bake it for another 20 minutes, and then drop the temperature down to 160 after 20 minutes and bake it at 160. But I've checked the lattice top and we don't need to, so we're just going to bake it for about another 40 to 45 minutes, and I'm going to keep an eye on it, and if at any stage I think it's browning too much on the outside edge, I'm going to add some foil. So I've just checked on my pie and we've got a little bit of browning here, so I am going to throw this foil on, shiny side down. I'm going to do 2 generous pieces of foil on top, and I've just lowered it to 160, so we're going to bake it for another 20 minutes. So the pie is out of the oven and I've let it cool for about an hour, and I've just dropped that ring off by placing a little bowl upside down. Oops, the bowl went with it. It's a bit sticky. Some of the caramel sauce from the apples is dripped out. So lucky we had it on the tray. So I'm going to transfer it, even though it's still warm, to that plate. That's my apple pie with spelt flour. If you liked this today, hit the thumbs up. Share it with a friend, and I'll pop a couple of extra videos that you might like. There's a Frangipane Tart, and there's also my Spelt galette, which is like a freeform pie. Anyway, thank you for watching. Write a comment below and let me know how you go. And also, if you're new here today, don't forget, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye.